At the beach house. Once upon a time there was a little girl. Her name was Aria, and she lived at the beach house. It was a warm and sunny morning. The blossom trees were just starting to flower, and the daffodils were in full bloom. Aria had a little car whose name was Orbie. He was yellow, like the sunshine. So even if it rained, it was always sunny at the beach house. "What a beautiful day," said Aria, as she jumped out of bed and threw open the curtains. The light was sparkling on the surface of the sea like stars. There was a bang on the roof as a seagull flew above and dropped oyster shells repeatedly onto the rooftop. This is so the shell will crack, and then the seagull can have breakfast. Aria had called the seagull Stretch, because his wings looked so wonderful when he flew. It was a very handsome seagull, or perhaps elegant. Aria wasn't sure. She decided to go with handsome, for now. "Arr," said Stretch. "Good morning," said Aria. Stretch continued to drop and bounce the oyster shells one by one, enjoying his breakfast at the beach house. Aria had an infinite fascination with the natural world. Her grandmother was like that too. The beach house had belonged to her grandmother, and Aria spent most of her childhood here. Aria had loved her grandmother very much, and before she left to join the stars in the sky, Aria promised her that she would look after the beach house. Aria loved the sea, and she loved the garden too. She spent a lot of time planting new seeds and looking after the animals, fruits, flowers, and vegetables. As the morning golden sunshine streamed across the sand, all the flowers in the garden fluttered their golden heads towards the light. Aria loved the seasons. There was always something to look forward to. As Aria wandered into the garden to have her breakfast among the spiky plants and the cherry blossom, she noticed the arrival of the camellia. She longed for the camellia every year, and today, on this glorious spring morning, it had decided to flower. "Each day is a little life," Aria said quietly as she gazed at the new arrival. Aria had planted the camellia with her grandmother when she was very little. Now Aria got to work. There was always something to do at the beach house. Flip and Flop purred and meowed by Aria's feet. Flip was chocolate brown with gold eyes like marbles. Flop was also chocolate brown with blue eyes like the sky. Flip and Flop lived at the beach house too. Although Aria lived alone, she never felt lonely. She had a parrot called Paradise, who loved to make noises. Quite often, Paradise would play games and pretend to be the clock, or Stretch the seagull, or someone knocking at the door. Sometimes Aria would go and open the front door and find nobody there, and then realise it was Paradise, who always did a little shuffle of wings as Aria would burst out laughing, realising what had happened. Paradise loved Aria very much. Aria loved Paradise too. Paradise was wise and loyal, with wings of scarlet, blue and green. Paradise would roam the skies like a flash of the jungle. Aria didn't question why Paradise had landed at the beach house on the very same day that her grandmother left. She knew that the beach house felt like home, for both of them. Aria was just in the middle of planting some chili seeds by the banana tree when she heard a sound. As she looked up, she saw a red cap and a welcoming smile. It was River, Aria's friend. "It's a blue sky day. Shall we go on an adventure?" asked River. "Come on then," said Aria, as she put the rest of the chili seeds in a bag for later. River and Aria found a basket and filled it with some food. River brought his guitar and Aria packed her bongos. Orbie was ready and waiting, looking even more yellow in the sunshine. As they set off, Orbie was singing his usual happy sunshine song. As they drove, Paradise flew above them always, to keep them safe. Orbie was good company for adventures. They drove along a little road next to the sand and sea, and found a signpost that said, "The Island." "Oh," said Aria, "let's go there." The road came to a stop. There was a little yellow ferry, just big enough for a few cars. "Hello, Yellow," said the very cheerful ferryman as he looked at Orbie. "You coming to see the island today, then?" he asked. Yes, please, said Aria and River at the same time. All aboard, said the ferryman. Orbie sang his little song. Orbie was quite noisy for such a little car, but that's one of the reasons why Aria loved Orbie so much. He was different. Paradise found the nice little ledge to sit on near the flagpole on the ferry, giving him a lovely view and a rest in the sun. They were off. As the ferry started to move, a plume of smoke shot out of the chimney that was right next to the flagpole, giving Paradise a surprise, making his feathers ruffle up into quite a business. Aria and River laughed. Poor Paradise, you're always doing things like that, said Aria. As the water lapped the boat in the sparkly sea, a shoal of fish swam and jumped in unison, their silver shimmer like a dancing mirror. It wasn't long before they reached the island. You might need this, said the ferryman, as he handed River a map. Thank you, said River. Aria, River, Orbie and Paradise left the ferry behind them as they started to explore the island. There were lots of different sandy little roads, all covered in pretty trees and purple heather. Which way should we go? Asked River. As they looked around, there were 2 wide sandy roads, and there was one more narrow path, about the width of Orbie. Sunbeams were coming through the trees like misty rays of light. Without needing to say anything, Aria and River just smiled. This was their path. No sooner had they started to drive, River saw something just ahead of them. Look, said River. We've got to slow down a bit, Orbie, said Aria. Although Orbie couldn't drive by himself, Aria often felt like there was a chance that he might, so she always spoke to him, just in case. What is it? Said River. I'm not sure, said Aria. Paradise paused quietly on a nearby branch in the sunshine and watched. Aria and River slowly walked towards the dark shadow ahead of them, trying to figure out what it was. It's moving, whispered River. Suddenly, what had been a strange dark shadow turned, and as it did so, it moved into the sunlight on the path. Wow, said Aria. Beautiful, said River. An eerie sound filled the air that made both Aria and River jump, but what they saw was not scary at all, so they stayed to take in all that they could see. It was as if a kaleidoscope had been placed before them. There, in all its splendour, stood the most exquisite peacock that Aria and River had ever seen. The fan of feathers rose up like a firework that had been frozen in time. The blues and greens were like worlds within worlds, complete with a headpiece too. Isn't he smart? Said Aria. Yes, laughed River. He really is. The peacock tilted his head and inspected them both, his feathers perfectly on display. He walked around them in a full circle. Then, having seen enough, with one great sweep of his tail, the peacock walked away into the forest. Aria thought of her grandmother, how she would have loved to see this. For a moment she felt a little sad, but as she turned to walk back, Orbie was waiting patiently like a great big ball of sunshine. The path started to get wider as they drove out of the forest. There was a meadow surrounded by trees, except for one area that didn't have any trees, but you could see the sea. There was a soft breeze in the air. It was peaceful and calm. Feeling a little hungry, Aria and River stopped the car and let Orbie rest for a little in the quiet of the meadow. As Aria got out of the car, a great big bumblebee flew past her, just missing her nose. Whoops, said Aria. That was close, said River, giggling. You see, because Orbie was yellow, everybody liked to come and visit him. The bumblebee flew around a while and then settled on Orbie's roof. Bees like yellow things. Most other things do too. Aria looked at Orbie and the bumblebee and said, If there is sunshine in you, then you will bring sunshine to those around you, and the world will be a better place. River got the basket of goodies that they had brought with them from the beach house and walked over to a nearby blossom tree. He laid down a lovely cosy rug and got out some lunch. Aria put some seeds in a bowl by the tree for Paradise, who nibbled on them happily. I'm hungry, said Aria. So am I, said River. They sat down together and enjoyed some fresh sandwiches, carrots and cucumber sticks from Aria's garden, and some homemade hummus. They drank the water fresh from a coconut and finished with Aria's favourite, chocolate coconut squares. These were made by River. He knows they are Aria's favourite, so he made them especially. As they enjoyed the rest of their picnic, Aria and River were surrounded by a gentle scattering of petals like snow as the blossom danced in the breeze. It was afternoon at the meadow. The air was filled with birdsong as they were busy making nests. No sooner had River got out his guitar to play a few songs, Aria spoke. Look, said Aria, pointing to a nearby tree. Where? Said River. There, on a branch. Can you see it? Aria said. River looked a little closer and to his delight could see a very small and fluffy squirrel. There was something a little different about this particular squirrel. I can see it, said River. It's a red squirrel, said Aria. Its tail was dark bushy red and its body was smooth and soft. As it was spring, the animals were coming out from their winter homes and searching for food. Aria remembered that they had brought some walnuts with them from the beach house. She grabbed a handful and so did River. They put the walnuts under the tree and walked away so the squirrel could find them in its own time. Good job, Aria, said River. The squirrel didn't waste much time. Within seconds it leaped off the branch, ran down the tree trunk to inspect this new and unexpected present. As quickly as possible, the squirrel started to gather them. 1, 2, 3, 4. There wasn't much time because soon lots of other red squirrels started to appear from all the other trees. I think they like them, said Aria. Yes, said River. Aria and River walked back to the blossom tree, cleared up their picnic and put the basket back in Orbie. Looking at the map, River could see that there were a few tiny paths that they could explore. One looked like it led to a house. Aria picked up her bongos and River his guitar, and the two of them decided to go for a walk. See you later, Orbie, said Aria. Orbie waited patiently in the meadow with the squirrels and the bumblebees, all having a very happy time. There were quite a few paths, and Aria and River started to get a little confused with where they were going. Listen, said Aria. Music, said River. Music is the answer, said Aria, smiling. Let's follow the sound, said River. So they did. Climbing through the bracken and giant ferns, Aria and River walked along the tiny sandy pathway, River leading the way. The music gradually got louder and louder. They went down a hill, and because the ferns were so graceful, they had formed a sort of tunnel for them to walk through. A little spider dangled from one of the ferns, so Aria gently moved the web to a different leaf to keep it safe. The path led to a clearing by a beach where Paradise was waiting for them. The sea was turquoise and the sand was golden. Aria and River gasped. They were surrounded by the most beautiful array of different coloured butterflies, dancing in the sky. The more they fly, the more they colour, River said, as he turned around in circles looking at them all. Like winged stars colouring in the sky. Fly, 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 Aria said, as she too delighted in this moment. Paradise glided effortlessly against the blue sky and swooped low overhead so Aria and River could see his colours. You are magnificent, aren't you? Said Aria. There was a little house next to the beach in the bay. A group of people, all dressed in shells and things that they had made from the beach, were gathered together playing all sorts of different musical instruments. There was a flute, a violin, a cello, a saxophone, a trumpet, and a very old-looking piano that appeared to also be made of driftwood and shells. Aria was particularly interested in one who seemed to be making a very good sound from what looked like a biscuit tin. As Aria, River and Paradise came into view with their guitar and bongos, the gathering waved and cheered them to come and join. Just as they did so, the front door to the little house creaked open, and there stood a teeny-tiny little old lady. She had snow-white hair, pearly white skin and rosy cheeks. Her eyes sparkled just like the sea. "Ah, you are just in time. Welcome," said the little old lady. "Thank you," said Aria. "What is your name?" Aria asked the little old lady. "Oh, just call me Granny-O," she replied. "Lovely to meet you, Granny-O. My name is Aria." Granny-O smiled. "Hey ho, Granny-O," said River, as he played a little tune on his guitar. Everyone laughed. "That's River," said Aria to Granny-O. Paradise made a funny tick-tock cuckoo noise that was a mixture of a cuckoo clock and the old grandfather clock at the beach house. Everyone laughed some more. There was a hammock with red and white stripes hanging between two trees. Aria jumped into it and did a full somersault and landed with a thud on the sand. It hurt a bit, but it was funny, so she laughed, and then everybody laughed too. "Let the music play on," shouted River, as he strummed his guitar, and so it did. Music filled the air surrounded by the sun, sea, and the sand. Granny-O covered Aria and River in necklaces made of shells and headpieces carved from driftwood and other lovely beachy things. The afternoon was a continuous joy of music and laughter as this happy tribe sang and danced. Soon the sunshine began to turn golden. "It's time to go home, River," said Aria. "We need to get Orbie to the ferry." Granny-O told them to wait as she went inside her little house as fast as her little legs could carry her. When she came back, she was holding a little tin box that smelled incredible. Every year, at this time, to welcome the spring, Granny-O would make a banana cake. "You'll have to come back in the autumn for my crispy apple cake," Granny-O said. Her eyes glistened once again like the sea. Aria and River thanked everyone as they waved goodbye to their new friends. "Come on, Paradise, we've got to go home," said Aria. Paradise, who had by this point finally finished making sure his feathers were immaculate in a nice sunny spot, swooped down and led the way. Aria and River ran up the beach, the butterflies all gone now, and they found their way to the narrow sandy path. The sand now cooler between Aria's toes as the evening gently crept in. They found their way back up to the meadow, and Orbie appeared to almost breathe a sigh of relief as they walked towards him. Aria did too. Aria and Orbie didn't like to be apart for too long. They jumped into the car with River's guitar, Aria's bongos, and Granny-O's banana cake, waved goodbye to the red squirrels, and zoomed their way along the sandy paths, taking care not to scare the animals, which wasn't easy, as Orbie sang as loud as ever. The ferryman came into view and he waved Orbie to the boat. "How was your day?" he asked. "We had a wonderful day," said Aria. "Yes, it was lovely," said River. Orbie sang his way onto the ferry. Paradise nestled himself next to the flagpole as before. When the ferry started to leave and the puff of smoke plumed out of the chimney behind him, Paradise jumped and ruffled his feathers. Again. Aria tried not to laugh this time, so Paradise didn't feel silly. As they headed for home across the sunset sea, the sky now a palette of gold and pink, blue and red, orange and cream. River sat down on the bow of the boat, and as he relaxed, he yawned. He was tired. Aria was just about to close her eyes in the warmth of the golden sun when suddenly she caught sight of a fin. "Dolphins!" she shouted. River, who had just that moment fallen asleep, awoke with such a jump that as he did so he almost fell into the water. Aria put out her hand to steady him. "I've got you, River," said Aria. "Thank you, Aria," said River as he held her hand. "I've got you too." As they leaned out to look into the water, there were 3 dolphins surfing in the waves of the boat. Aria and River watched, mesmerized by the nature of what they could see. The sun now almost kissing the horizon for the last time that day. River and Aria got back into Orbie as the ferry came to the jetty. The ferryman waved goodbye and Orbie rumbled and sang as noisily as ever, Paradise flying above them all the way back to the beach house. Aria thought about all the wonderful animals that they had seen that day, the music, and meeting Granny-O. Granny-O reminded me of my grandmother, said Aria eventually. Do you miss your grandmother? Asked River. Yes, Aria said. What was she like? Asked River. Her voice was like music, her descriptions a visual story of poetry in motion. To me, she was a butterfly, Aria said. She sounds lovely, said River. She was wonderful, Aria said. Was she old like Granny-O? River asked. Yes, said Aria, but I told her this. Though your vessel is old, your spirit has never lost its sparkle, and your soul has never lost its powerful and deep ability to love, said Aria. A good example to live by, said River. Orbie seemed to almost glow in the evening light. It was getting quite cold outside now, as it was still only spring. The dewdrops glistened in the garden at the beach house. The sky had become a deep red with navy blue. Thank you, Orbie, said Aria as she took out the key. It was quiet. River leaned over and pressed the horn 2 times. Beep, beep. Shh, said Aria, laughing. They unpacked their things and went inside the beach house, through the spiky plants and blossom trees. Suddenly Aria tripped and hopped and looked down startled. Oh, sorry, Harold, said Aria as she quickly stopped and looked down. She picked up a lovely old tortoise. This was Harold. I nearly trod on you, Aria said. But you didn't, said River. Aria gently dusted off his shell with her scarf and put Harold among the ferns so he could settle down for the night. Paradise swooped down and nestled into the blossom tree. There was a meow. 2 meows. Flip and Flop purred as they greeted Aria and River, delighted to see that they were all safely home with Orbie from their island adventure. Everyone was happy to be back at the beach house. Aria got out the tin of banana cake from Granny-O and cut it in half and wrapped it up for River to take home. Thank you for a lovely day, said River, as he gave Aria a hug. Thank you for a lovely day too, said Aria. River picked up his guitar and banana cake, and as he walked, he couldn't help but open the wrapper and break off a little corner, just to have a taste. Aria walked through her spiky tree garden and sat down on a bench. There was an inscription on the bench that had been carved into the back of it. The words read, "We are all children. It's just that some of us got to this earth before or after the other." The stars were starting to show themselves, the sea now dark but a comforting and wild roar. I love the beach house, thought Aria. Just as she was about to look away, she saw a shooting star sparkling across the night sky. She smiled. Aria went inside and climbed into bed, Flip and Flop not far behind, ready to curl up onto the bed and rest for the night too. Aria thought about her grandmother. Light of my life, she said quietly as she closed her eyes. It wasn't long before Aria was fast asleep, including Paradise and Orbie. All was quiet, except for the sound of the sea at the beach house.